Hey, everybody. I'm David Bloom, co-founder of Next TMT, the free newsletter on all things technology, media, and telecom. And this very podcast, the Next TMT Talks. I'm here with my co-founder, Daniel Frankel, talking all those T's and M's and other T's. This week, Dan has some opinions on that intractable and record-length standoff that has brought the nation's business to a halt. No, I'm not talking about the U.S. government shutdown. I'm talking about something meaningful here. Disney versus YouTube TV, and the imminent loss for 10 million subscribers of access to another Monday Night Football game. Consequences could be in the offing. We also get into right-wing leaning Sinclair Nexstar's plans to Borg the rest of local broadcast television, while Darman's Sean Atkins points out what really went wrong with legacy media over the last 15 years. The trade desk's really good quarter and really crummy Wall Street prospects. Altus and Xperi head in different directions with new names and new ad platforms. Who's making money on YouTube besides YouTube? Disney fires its bookie, though their industry-leading new sharks face some new challenges as well. And finally, video game publisher Take-Two Interactive takes an 8 count, actually technically an 8% count, from Wall Street after yet another Grand Theft Auto 6 delay. We also take a little drive by Pluribus, the much awaited, particularly by my colleague, Vince Gilligan show on Apple TV. It's here. We get some Dan thoughts as a nascent commentariat emerges. And a little shout out to former NFL Commissioner Paul Tagliabue, who died at 84 this weekend. During his 17-year tenure, Tagliabue helped make the NFL what it is today, with expansion to 32 teams, international initiatives, which are now really like a weekly thing for the league, and groundbreaking TV deals. So with all that, Dan, let's get back to that really important thing about that fight between Disney and YouTube TV.
Well, a lot of people are put out, Dave. A lot of people inconvenienced. They can't watch the show or sports event that they want to watch. It's dragged onto its second week. As we said last week, it's rare that a carriage dispute of this magnitude, happens. They let it go this far in the middle of.
Well, really, it's not even the second week; it's the second weekend, right? When all the sports are, and all the sports fans get pissed off because they can't get ESPN, et cetera, Monday Night Football, all that. It's really the weekends that put the edge on. It's like you miss Abbott Elementary, well, we'll catch it on reruns.
It is what I mean. You said I have opinions on it. Everybody has opinions on this one. It's these things are very consumerist things. I can't watch my program. I think it was Ars Technica wrote, this just shows that programming doesn't belong to us. I thought that was a very kind of strange thing.
That's a very millennial looking at their navel kind of thing to write.
Exactly.
It's like, did it ever belong, quote, to us, unquote? I mean, come on.
I have like probably you, anybody who works in media has kind of a privileged life. First time I was impacted by it, had a dog in the hunt was Wednesday night when the Lakers were playing the Spurs. It's a pretty good early season NBA game. You have Victor Wembanyama, Luka Doncic was playing. It was something I wanted to see. And for the first time, the blackout came home to me. I didn't own the content. Anyway, I realized that I've had a Sling TV review account for the last, I don't know, whenever they launched it. It's been a long time, but they've been gracious enough to let me hold on to it. And I watched it that
slinging.
way.
All right.
Not he has two virtual MVPDs. I get that. But what I guess the point I'm trying to make is Disney knows this, and certainly YouTube does in this age. There are so many different ways that programming is distributed. Disney has their
right.
two.
Well, speaking of which, who has two vMVPDs? Disney.
Right.
They now own Fubo, and they already had Hulu plus Live TV, which they keep advertising has live sports. So they got options. This is a big one, but it's not the only one. And any thoughts about what this means? Because it feels like there's going to be some folks starting to say, screw you guys. I'm going to go over to the Disney or the ESPN app, or I'm going to go over to Hulu plus Live TV or Fubo with its sports-minded packages. It has other packages too. I'll just go over there because they're not fighting with Disney for carriage fees.
I mean, you could get the ESPN app now, and you could get it combined with Fox One. I think that's what is that, $30, $35? It's There are so many bundle options, non-bundle
Yeah, it's
options.
a pretty good bundle. Yeah, yeah.
One of those bundles of an
You get a
over-air
lot.
10 hour.
But you don't get Peacock. That matters if you're if you're an NBA geek or an English Premier League geek. Both of which I would just say I have some geek tendencies in those directions. Not hardcore, but
So
more than a drive-by viewer. I'll just throw that out there.
you and me both, brother. There was a small research company, I think it's called Drive Research. Variety was one of the outlets that picked them up. And did a survey of just over 1,100 U.S. consumers on how they're going to respond to the blackout. And this overwhelming number said that they're thinking about canceling. I think it was 8.
Sweet. Soon. Not this
Yeah,
week.
there was no timeline. It wasn't qualified as to who these consumers were. Where were they based? Are they predominantly subscribers to YouTube TV, et cetera, et cetera? Do they even have a virtual MVPT? That kind of thing. What was interesting is most of them, there's an even split, 52%. Both sides are to blame, and then you get beyond that, and it's mostly Disney. I think it was like 7% back half went to the pay TV provider, YouTube, but the rest said it was Disney's problem. I don't know. I mean, maybe you could trace it back. It's the NBA's problem because they have the ones who demanded that Disney spend all that money to re-up their contract. All traces back to that.
I'm not worried about what a $200 billion company is where it's going to find its next 3 nickels to pay the league for valuable rights. It's like, come on. I mean, Disney has the money. The questions, as you've discussed in the past, are not really about the price per, the nickel difference in carriage fees. It's really about who controls the data, who controls the consumer, those kinds of things, right? Which are more big picture and completely boring to consumers who can't see their Monday Night Football, but really important as you try to figure out how you deliver content to audiences that you identify and know in the future. And that's the real fight here, right?
So when do you think this thing gets resolved? I mean, this seems extraordinarily long. I guess the YouTube charter fight that when we always talk about as landmark, change the business, that dragged on a couple of weeks. This is like not hit 14 days yet, so maybe I'm being premature on calling it.
Right. Well, we'll see. I think the really fun thing is we should get into a prediction market and write a contract for which ends sooner, the government standoff or the Disney YouTube TV standoff. If you were a betting man, which side of that contract would you be on?
I'll give Google and Disney more credit for rationality than Congress and the White House.
Right. That being said, and I mentioned prediction markets with some intention here, Disney fired its bookie. It was always a weird deal a couple of years ago when they signed with Penn Entertainment, kind of a regional, much smaller bookmaking operation to handle ESPN bets and other expressions of legalized gambling through the ESPN family of opportunities to waste your money on gambling or triple your money.
It seems
And
with the brand.
It never made sense, though, right?
Yeah.
It never made sense. And it went about as well as when I saw it back then. I was like, this isn't going to go great because they just didn't have the heft to keep up with DraftKings and FanDuel, never mind everybody else. Sure enough, 2 years later, they've signed up 2.9 million gamblers, Penn said, but they're still 7th place, which means there's a whole lot of people in front of them. And their market share is 3%. And the ability, and that's with ESPN marketing its app, its everything out the wazoo to hardcore fans in every place you can legally do this stuff. So it says a lot about something. So they're going to kill off a bunch of those branded ESPN things just in time to avoid any annoyances and connections to the latest gambling scandal. 6 players at 3 universities, just as college basketball starts, banned by the NCAA from ever playing again. This will not be the last of these things. So I hope everybody's really happy about sports gambling in America because we're stuck with it. The people that took over, though, that bookie thing, DraftKings, one of the 2 leaders, so they got some resources, they got some connections. They say, finally, apparently, according to our dear friends over at Moffett-Nathanson, that they're going to get in the prediction markets, just like Kalshi and Interactive Brokers and Robinhood and Polymath. They're going to get into prediction markets, and they hope to have sports contracts to do effectively get around the state regulation of gambling sites, but still allow sports betting. So they're going to take on this burgeoning threat off on their flank. So there you go. We're all set. Prediction markets are everything.
As Deadwood's Al Spurgeon would say, what's in their head is not in mine.
Right.
I don't play in that that pool of class and nutsets. What else?
Right. Well, a few other things. You had some opinions about the apparent borging of broadcast that's on underway, even though the FCC hasn't yet signed the changes in rules. Takes a while. That would allow more than 39% ownership of local broadcast stations that reach more than 39% of the American populace. That hasn't stopped Nexstar and Sinclair, they got the fever. More cowbell, actually more local stations.
Yeah, well, Sinclair CEO Chris Ripley was delivering Q3 ratings and kind of said the same thing he did a year ago, right after Donald Trump was elected.
This is the same thing he's been saying since 2017, at least. Let's just be clear.
It was a little more declarative. This is going to happen early next year. They're going to roll back, soften, or just take it away, this ownership cap that you can't have stations reaching more than 39% of all TV homes. And the rationale has always been, and we bought it here, that in a business where you compete in media against big technology companies that are global and don't have ownership caps like this, that it's only fair. I don't know that I trust the agendas of these companies, and just because we're doing a bad job of regulating big tech doesn't mean that we should give these guys carte blanche on guardrails that successfully existed for decades. Just a thought.
Well, but it's not going to change the fact that regulation or limitations on concentration that theoretically still exist for now in broadcast, making them go away really is at least a little bit more of an even playing field, even if they're playing to keep the gambling thing going a bad hand. I mean, broadcast is playing a bad hand. Local broadcast, you're going to have less compelling national programming from the networks I noticed that the paper, which was on Peacock, debuted on the Peacock first, is now coming to NBC. And of course, Landman, which your favorite hate watch, is coming out this week. It started on Paramount Plus, but they've been running it on CBS more recently, as best they can, in and around some of the things they got to work around. It's sort of like taking an HBO show and throwing it on to, broadcast. You got to really chunk out some stuff. But that's going to be a pretty common model. Put it up on streaming, see how it goes. If it does well, then you throw it out onto your legacy outlets. You throw it into FAST, you throw it at all kinds of other things, and milk it in a new distribution ladder. The point I guess I'm trying to get to eventually here is that we are about to see local broadcast is going to have less compelling stuff if you have access to broadband somewhere, somehow.
Look at those aggregate audience sizes for like even hit shows, and they're tiny. It's been going that way for a long time. So there, I just, and I understand your point, but I think used a fairly piquant metaphor. It's a little bit like refighting the Eastern Front in World War II between Russia and the Soviet Union and Nazi Germany. Versus noting all the AI and drones transforming the Ukraine-Russia battlefield and the battlefields of the future that we're all going to have to deal with. I mean, it's a different battle now. Broadcast is going to not go away, but it's going to be a shrinking, less vibrant platform. They're going to use digital over-the-air 3.0, ATSC 3.0, 3.0 next-gen TV stuff to allegedly provide more stuff, but that's not more entertainment. There's going to be some niche programming, but it's going to be more data casting and security and emergency broadcast. Just like I said, hey, it's a little bit like what happened to AM radio, which now needs to have Congress pass a bill requiring that car makers
continue to include AM radio in their vehicles because they're like, why don't we have to deal with this? No one listens to AM radio except some crusty old dudes listening to the son of Rush Limbaugh or whoever's doing that now.
I was an entire Dodger game a few weeks ago when they were playing the Phillies in the LDS.
Right. So what's still on AM radio? Live sports,
right?
News,
right-wing talk radio,
and right-wing talk radio. That sure sounds like
the
Fox playbook. It's the Fox playbook now coming to local broadcasts, at least in flyover land. And I mean that not in a dismissive way, but trying to encapsulate everything other than the coasts and the major urban areas. So that's what it's going to look like. Maybe it's just fine that it's folks of a particular political stripe talking to people of a particular political stripe in a completely hermetically sealed echo chamber.
I did think it was interesting that Ripley took a shout out, almost telling the Brendan Carr, hey, while you're at it, regulate VMPDs.
Yeah. Yeah. Good luck on that, buddy.
Yeah.
You think you have an uneven playing field now? The NAB is going to outstrip, I don't know, Alphabet in Washington? Maybe? Probably not. Just thinking that's not happening. But, along the way, I mentioned just in passing Darman Studios, which is a huge YouTube and social media and all that. They do longer form content for new media outlets, YouTube and other places, and have a very substantive production facility out by the airport in Burbank. I mean, they need to have golf carts to move people around. And I've talked with Sean Atkins, the CEO of Darman, and he said that the moment, the holy crap moment for a lot of this, because he used to work at MTV, Bertelsmann, Discovery. He's a well-respected, well-known veteran of traditional legacy media. Said you got friends from his old places come over to tour every week. He said, and the holy crap moment is when he takes them and they have to get in the golf cart just to get around because it's so big. There's enough going on.
They're reinventing the Hollywood model and blah.
They are not. But I mean, the reality is that they do have a business model that fits for a new distribution. That's the reality.
When it's not TV, it's all, that was an interesting graphic that he put up on.
Yeah.
And I'm glad you included it. I thought it was interesting that the same week we got this graphic from Activate Research, which Michael Wolf runs that. It was sort of looking at, if you look at aggregate consumption of video, it hasn't changed that much. It's like 5 hours and change. It's going to go up slightly over the next 4 years. That's what he was trying to show. Even marginal increases in media tech consumption result in like massive increases in revenue. I think it was $10 billion from 7 minutes of tacked on media tech time for U.S. consumers over the next 4 years. But what struck me about that is we spent a lot of time on this nomenclature, but it's really still lean back. We're watching a lot more YouTube these days than we were. Certainly the kids are. Sean Atkins I thought it was startling how reverse hockey stick.
Yeah, it's definitely the sticks down to be able to take a shot. But the reality is, and while it's fine to say we're still watching something that looks more or less lean back, big screen, all that stuff looks like what we've been doing since 1956 with more color and more people saying, hey, fam. But the difference is who's making the money. And his point, not his point, I'm sorry, Jamie Bronson's point over at The View, View TV, I guess is who it is. He's a technology provider for cloud-based video distribution. But his point is, if you have high-end, high-quality programming, YouTube is not like all the others. It is not set up. It cannot maximize your revenue. Just, for instance, the CPMs are about 1/7 of what they are on the legacy guys. The money you get back from YouTube gets 47% scraped off the top before it comes back to you. So if you have like live sports or cool events, it's really hard to make anything like the money you have to put into it, just as you might for broadcast or cable or premium streaming. You don't get it back. You're just not going to get it back. It's not set up for that. It's made for volume. And so the people in the middle who are creating the programming, it's one thing to be, Joe Lively, just to make up a name, working in mom's back bedroom and creating YouTube videos a couple times a week that somehow catch an audience and blow up, and you're getting a revenue share after a while. And another thing to be an established media company trying to figure out how you're going to make freaking money. And so his point is that's changed. And if you're stuck with an algorithm on there and you're not making like really cool stuff, that's Sean's point. It's going to be really tough to connect with people because they've got lots of options. So it's a really interesting time, I think, for the quality guys in the middle. Jamie said, think about fast TV, kind of closed in environments where you control a specialized programming with, who's coming in and out, and you can monetize those audiences instead of giving all that to YouTube, which is exactly the fight, by the way, to take this all back, that Disney's having, right? So here we are. We've closed that loop. I feel very proud of myself. So there
Good.
you go. Speaking of loops getting closed, The Trade Desk, who's been a much beloved sponsor of this very podcast in the past, had a really good quarter. Didn't matter the Wall Street, though. They got beat up.
Kind of the same as they had a bunch of cataclysmic. This wasn't a massive drop. They've had some big stock drops after quarterly reports over the last year.
Yeah, a year ago. Woof, that was like December of last year.
Where they did miss targets and they did get spanked. But the last couple of quarters, they've been above estimates and produced nice numbers. I think revenue was up 18%, and they got spanked again. I think over 5 days, the stock was down nearly 14%. And
the market as a whole was down a good percent, but not 14. But the market as a whole was kind of crummy too. But you'd think that high flyers like the Trade Desk, who's been, might be more vulnerable.
Jeff,
even with good
probably,
news.
Their CEO is probably one of the smarter guys in ad tech, and he kind of, in many respects, pioneered that ecosystem. And
right,
he believes
that really they're the biggest of the small guys.
This narrative twice in the last 6 months. He's very impassioned about it. I don't think he's spinning a tale. I think he believes that Amazon is ultimately going to become like Meta, like Google, a closed ecosystem that serves itself without a lot of third-party tools. And It doesn't go away, but it's not the threat that everybody sees long-term. He's seen it before. He says it's going to happen again, and nobody on Wall Street seems to believe him. Everybody seems to think that a major sea change has happened to the ad tech business. It's not the first time.
It's an interesting question because Meta got beat up this week too, right? So Meta's issue is they are spending a whole bunch of money on AI, and no one's quite clear how that's going to come back. And Zuckerberg's had these explosions of investment. Remember changing the name of his company to Meta, which was part of a big jump into the metaverse, made a big spending to jump into social back in the day, et cetera, et cetera. So he's done this before, but never at this level of, so I think 47% of their free cash flow is devoted now to spending on AI related CapEx, which is a lot. I mean, Meta's big, but it's one fourth the size of Apple right now. It's not going away, but it's like, how are you turning that into money? So we've got these issues, but that's a really big company that has been a closed loop, garden that's made billions and billions of dollars. Amazon, billions and billions of dollars with something that's increasingly sort of a walled garden. And here we go again, YouTube and Alphabet, right? So is there enough stuff outside those walls for Trade Desk to matter? What do you think?
I go with Jeff Green. I think there would be a pivot. He'd be working on a pivot if he didn't believe that.
Yeah. And he's already pivoted with Ventura, the TV OS that they developed a year ago, and other things.
I think there's a belief that giant organisms are a problem. I mean, Ventura is an indicator of that. But
Ventura competitors, Xperi, heading in new directions with a new ad platform of its own.
Yeah, Xperi owns the TiVo brand, which is a lot of different things now. It's not a digital video recorder.
It's no longer hardware.
It's a TV OS platform in Europe. They've got a relationship with a Turkish company called Vestel, which does a lot of brands that distribute smart TV brands that are distributed all over Europe. They've got brands all over Asia, OEM brands that they supply the OS for. It's kind of billed as a white label TV OS. If you can't afford to program one, or you don't want to license one that's going to consume your brand, like Roku or Google TV or Amazon Fire TV, use us, you can profit more from your ad network. It's not a massive amount of subscribers at this point or users. They've tuned that with an IPTV base, a pay TV business out here in North America and Latin America. And what was surprising for their own ad platform called TiVo One. And it was nascent, and I don't want to say we dismissed it, but we haven't taken it real super seriously. It grew 30% from August to the end of September, or basically second quarter,
That's
third
off a
quarter.
small base, though. I want to hesitate. I mean, I don't want to overlook the fact that
Still nearly
it's
5
one of
million.
about 20 of these these platforms, right? So
Keep an
30% is
eye on it.
great. All right, we'll keep an eye on it. I mean, just like we've watched TiVo for 25 years now, right? As it farmed its IP in various ways with the programming grid and all the rest. So we'll see what they do. I mean, Xperi's been around. They've got a lot of random assets under the umbrella of that company. We'll see what they come up with.
Yeah, they've got in-car automotive. They've got a deal with BMW. It's kind of a scrappy, interesting little technology company. By no means is it a massive video business player, but it's a difficult business right now to ramp up it if you haven't established yourself in the gateway OS of the future. You've probably missed the boat unless you are a lot of scale. So interesting to watch.
Yeah. We also got a little bit into a cable provider that is not named Charter or Spectrum. I mean, Charter, Spectrum, or Comcast. And that is also not being bought, apparently.
We got into cable broadband, I think it was last week, and we talked about how it's kind of resurgent. Might have, after a couple of years of like having its lunch fed to it by cheaper broadband, basically fixed wireless access. And
I think its lunch was actually not being fed to it. It was being eaten by the bullies just to clean up your mess.
Different pricing models, better service, better technology. Altus isn't showing those green shoots yet. Craig Moffat was talking about they've got like this unique problem of, for one time, they were way overpriced in the Northeast region, their footprint against Verizon and a bunch of other companies dealing fiber and other things. As they've moderated price, they also trim their expenses way back. So they don't have a lot of resources to respond to angry customers. So the result has been a quagmire. They're not showing a sign of positive growth anytime soon. And I'm one of these.
It sounds like what you're saying is there's been a perfect storm of a quagmire. But Altus is changing his name. And I mean, if they're not busy being bought or sold, they're just changing their name randomly. It's like, figure out what we're called now and then find customer support. So
it's a common, their go-to-market name is Optimum if you live on the Eastern Seaboard.
Doesn't sound optimal, however.
Altus USA was a European brand name. It's like Charter changing its name to Spectrum, which I kind of always wondered why they didn't do. Seems to make sense to me. So yeah, they're
going to become Cox, right? So now Charter's going to be Cox, even though it's the one doing the buying. It's like we like Cox better than Charter or Spectrum, and we just want to confuse the heck out of people. Meanwhile, my spouse still writes checks for Charter to Time Warner Cable.
That's how it shows up in my online billing too. Is that crazy?
I mean, it's the weirdest thing. It's like, okay, that was like 17 generations ago. Have you not updated your corporate names at all? Do you not have any like attorney laying around or some AI that could just do a little name change? Just for clarification?
There was a day when Comcast signed a deal to buy Time Warner Cable.
Yeah. And a long time ago, though, before the pandemic.
Said, no, you're too big. And then Charter ended up getting it. And
yeah.
Now
AT&T had them and got rid of them as part of their whatever. It's had a lot of lives, but it's funny that name lives on just in the monthly bill that shows up. Let's see here's one that I talked about. Take-Two Interactive has the most highly anticipated game in the world coming. It's called Grand Theft Auto 6.
A lot of bad boys playing.
It's been, and they have, they've had Grand Theft Auto 5 and Grand Theft Auto Online, which is a persistent, massively multiplayer online version of the game. been gigantically successful. GTA 5, 220 million copies. Do the math on that times, I don't know what your average price would be, $40. That's $8 billion, something like that. I mean, it's pretty staggering how much money they made off that. And
those
they've
games
taken a dozen years. What now?
25 years ago, 30 years ago. When was the first version of that?
I think it was like mid 90s, and it was radically different from the visuals now. It was a little top down isometric view of little criminals like heisting cars and shooting people and stuff like that. And now it's in full cinematic glory.
Toyota Corollas still, those are your bad boy days. It's back a ways.
Oh, I had a Corona, not a Corolla. I had a like a Crown in college for a little while after that. Anyway, GTA 6, which has been in development since GTA 5 came out 12 years ago, has now been pushed back. It was going to come out this year. Then they said in the spring, no, we're going to make it come out in the fall.
It's like Axl Rose working on the perfect record. It's just never.
Oh my God. Yeah. This could be Cold November Rain 2 or 6. I guess 6. That would be the really appropriate one. So now it's set to come out in in November of next year, this time next year. And if that actually happens, the scrum, the pileup, and the holiday season game releases will be pretty epic. I am sure everybody in the video game industry is going, okay, let's just change our release date 4 weeks before that so that we can at least get some stuff sold before GTA comes, because it's anticipated. Some of the consultants I've heard talk who follow the industry closely said it's anticipated to be the biggest entertainment release of any kind in history. And if you've already sold 220 million units of the predecessor and you have a thriving online multiplayer world and GTA Online that had growth of 20% in the last
year. Second. History, the biggest entertainment product debut in history.
Yes.
Even bigger than season 2 of The Affair. I don't, that seems unlikely.
Some things live on. Dominic West, big in your imagination, not in those of hundreds of millions of video game players around the world. Dominic West, a fine actor, not that big. Ruth Wilson in a new show, by the way. Speaking of new shows, you were speaking glowingly, or at least with high anticipation, nearly as much as many people have for Grand Theft Auto 6, for Pluribus, the new show from Breaking Bad creator Vince Gilligan, starring Rhea Seehorn. It is finally here. It's on Apple TV, as we now call it. The streaming service, not the app and not the hardware. Did you watch?
I watched last night and was a bit blown away.
What'd you think?
Lived up to the hype. I mean, us Breaking Bad fans have been anticipating this with bated breath for quite a while. And Vince Gilligan did not let us down. It's a complete departure from the kind of stuff he did before. I mean, like, it's not in the Breaking Bad universe, so that's kind of
it is definitely. I'm not sure which universe it's in, but it's a different universe, right? It's a sci-fi. It's ultimately a sci-fi story, but also
keeping
a story for
under wraps. I won't say any more about that. Really created a nice surprise. I mean, it was clever, executed sci-fi. I'm just, they just set it up. I get the feeling that the actual series will be much different than the kind of traumatic, tumultuous world creation that went on in episode 1. But Rhea Seehorn plays the title. The main character is fantastic. She was in both. Actually, she was in Better Call Saul.
Better Call Saul was where she really made her bones.
I don't remember.
I'm sorry, what?
Was she in Breaking Bad as well? I don't remember. I think she was.
I don't think she had a notable role. She may have been in there. She was certainly much loved in Better Call Saul. But you, sir, are the Breaking Badness in this duo, this duopoly that we have over our listeners' attention. So I will bow to thee if you believe that she was in there. You'd have to hit up IMDb and dive deep into old credits. One of the things I found interesting is, and this is just a sort of a bigger question, a nascent commentariat is emerging around the show. So I happened to notice on LinkedIn, the founders of Stornoway.io, which helps to turn video and other stuff into interactive experiences, Kate Dimbleby and her co-founder Ru Hao have launched a podcast. First episode was the day before Pluribus debuted, called Pluribusters. And I'm just sort of curious because you think about HBO has gotten very good about creating podcasts about their own shows and then linking to us, hey, we're going to have so-and-so talking about this episode and, this writer over here talking about that episode. They're good about doing that. But then there's this whole infrastructure that emerges over a show like a Breaking Bad over time that talks about it, that writes about it on Reddit, et cetera, et cetera. It's like, I wonder what it is. Dimbleby's a really interesting person because she's not only runs Stornoway, she is somebody who has been a long time singer in Britain with 9 albums released. You can get 3 of them on Apple Music now. And she's still releasing albums while she's running this company that I've interviewed her. She's delightful, really sharp, obviously. And now they're going to do this. She says, if I don't have enough going on with 2 kids and a company, they're doing this podcast.
No,
But,
if you can get into the vapor trails is something that's really popular.
Yeah. It's like, like there are folks who comment on these shows every week and they put their thing out and they have the conversations and then it has a long afterlife and you can bring stars back on and do all that stuff. How do you pick them?
Don't forget the line.
I mean, it's really an interesting thing to think about.
Yeah, maybe we get on one of those one of these days. Instead of
Yeah, we'll do one about Paul Tagliabue. I mentioned him at the top of the show. Pete Rozelle really created the modern NFL back in the 60s. Got him on TV every week. Got him on color TV every week. Got him moving forward.
With Jim McMahon. Was with the Bears. What did he say about Pete Rozelle? He had put him on his sweatband. The commissioner had refused to let him wear certain personal effects in the field, as I recall. And
yes, back then it was the No Fun League, not the NFL.
Right.
National Football League. That being said, Tagliabue was Rozelle's successor and had to take it to that next level and get them beyond the U.S. shores, try to make it more of an international game. Got them into 4 new cities or renewed cities in some cases and helped make it what is now really the only programming that matters on broadcast. The reality is, I mean, if you're on broadcast and you don't have the NFL or at least the Saturday football games, what are people watching on your show? I mean, maybe it's the local news if you're over 55 or 60 or 64 in my case, as of this week. But who's watching anything else on your local station? So, I mean, the NFL, I mean, Tagliabue's like crucial to what's left of broadcast, right?
What do you think? It's the year 2039 and we're hanging on. Maybe we do this podcast still if the gods swing our way.
We'll be celebrating our 20th anniversary of Next TMT Talks. So, what do you think, Daniel?
Commanders at Donald Trump Stadium. I mean,
they've already torn that stadium down and replaced it with a mock-up of the East Wing.
Doesn't somebody have to ask for this to be done for you? Isn't it kind of tacky?
Well, you do. They ignored it. They ignored it, and then they tore down on the East Wing, but fired the design committee that putatively would be a speed bump in the road for the East Wing. I just think by then it'll be so gaudy and people will just tear it down again to further maximize revenue in some fashion for, I don't know, soccer, football, the other football. Yeah, Don wanted to have the Commanders name their new field after him. It's like, we'll do it when you're dead. So, which, I don't know, he's not looking as healthy as he was, getting his CAT scans and things.
Seems like he's, devoting some time during those Oval Office meetings to personal care, which is,
Yeah. I mean, I'll be right back, taking a little nap, dozy Don.
Speaking of which, we should probably get to our naps. Let our producer edit this thing and get it out the door. David, thanks for adjusting the time and doing this early today.
Yeah, I'm all about flexibility. Glad we could do it. Lots to talk about. Oh, while I'm thinking about it, one more thing. NextTMT.com is available online for free. We come out every week. Go to xtmt.com to sign up. Just as well, you can get this podcast both in audio form and video on all the major outlets, YouTube for the video version, Spotify, Apple, etc. for the audio version. Sign up, send us your thoughts, join us on our LinkedIn group, and have a great week.